There once was a good king, and the people who served this king were once slaves in a foreign land. And while they were slaves, they were made to work all the time, 7 days a week, doing all sorts of hard labor. And the king rescued these people, and he set these people free to serve him. The king protected them, and he gave them everything that they needed. He gave them a set of laws to live by. And if they wouldn't have followed these laws, then they would have been very, very happy. And the good king came and he spoke to the people, and he said, I want you to take off a day to honor me. You're to do all the work that you need to do during 6 days, and then on the 7th day, you are to take a break from your work, and you are to remember your king and how good he has been to you. And suddenly, the people started to complain. And this is what they said. They said, I can't believe this stupid king and all of these rules that he has given to us. Every time he's talking about what we can do and what we can't do. And now he wants us to take a vacation. He is so annoying. I wish that we could just go back to Egypt where we could work all 7 days of the week and not have a day of vacation. That would be crazy, right? That would be absolutely crazy for someone to object to having a day off. But that is really how most Christians are. It is very rare in our day to find a Christian that genuinely loves the fourth commandment. It shouldn't surprise us if you see opposition to the fourth commandment coming from a secular government or coming from an employer who wants to make more money, and so he wants his employees to work all 7 days of the week. But the odd thing is that we see objections to the fourth commandment coming from Christians themselves. The thing that should be a joy to us, we treat like it's some sort of a heavy burden, something that is too great for us to bear. And God never intended for it to be that way. God intended for us to look at the Sabbath day and to see it as a joy. We need to see it as a day of rest, a gift from God. That is what it meant during Moses' day. That is what it meant at the creation of the world. And that is what it means for us today. Today we're going to look at the story of the Sabbath. We're going to look at the story of the day of rest all the way from beginning to the end of the world. We're going to see what the Bible has to say from beginning to end about the Sabbath. We will begin by talking about the day of rest in creation. Then we'll go on and talk about rest in Old Testament Israel. And then we'll talk about the day of rest in New Testament times. And so instead of starting in Exodus, instead of starting here in the middle of the story, we need to go back to the beginning. We need to go back to the beginning of the day of rest. We need to go back to the time in which God created the heavens and the earth. Because the first chapter in the story of the Sabbath is the one that happens in the first story that we see in the Bible. I have a question for you. Why did God create the heavens and the earth in 6 days? Why did God create the heavens and the earth in 6 days? God could have created the heavens and the earth in 6 hours, or 6 minutes, or 6 seconds. In fact, he is so powerful that he could have done it in no time at all. He could have just said, let it be, and it would be. That's how powerful God is. When Jesus was here on earth, he often did miracles instantaneously. It didn't take 6 days for him to change water into wine. It didn't take him 6 days to take the loaves and the fish and multiply them. It didn't take him 6 days to heal someone. He was able to do all of these things just like that. But in the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days, and so it makes you wonder why. He has infinite power, and certainly he could have done it some other way. Well, the answer to that question is given to us in the first story in the Bible. If you look at Genesis chapter 2, this is what you read. Thus the heavens and the earth were finished, all the great number of them. And on the seventh day, God finished his work that he had done, and he rested on the seventh day from all the work that he had done. So God blessed the seventh day and made it holy, because on it God rested from all his work that he had done in creation. So you see that God rested on the seventh day. Now you need to understand that God didn't have to rest. He's not like we are. It's not like we would have to rest after working all day or riding 160 kilometers on a bike or something like that. But God doesn't need any rest. He's a big God. It didn't take him any effort at all to create everything that is. He didn't need to take a break, but nonetheless, he did. And then the second thing you see is that God blessed the seventh day and made it holy. That means that he set it apart. He set it apart for his purposes, for his people. So when God created the heavens and the earth in 6 days and then he rested, he is making an example for all of us to follow. He is the great God who wants his creatures to act like him. We are made in the image of God, and there are certain ways in which we should imitate our Creator. He could have done everything in 6 seconds or an instant, but that would not have taught us how we should live. So God is setting a pattern for us, a pattern that affects the very way that we look at time, the way that we understand time, the way that we act. We are to have 6 days of work that are followed by a day of rest. And this day of rest has an important purpose. It is set apart for God. And on this day, his creatures are to give honor and glory to him. That's what we see in the book of Genesis. And it's interesting where this occurs in the story in Genesis. This occurs in chapter 2, and then something really, really important happens in chapter 3, right? In chapters 1 and 2, you're hearing all about creation, and then something very important happens in chapter 3, and that's the deal with some forbidden fruit, and then the people of God fall. They sin against God. And so what you need to understand from this is that work itself was easy before the fall, and God is still telling his people to take a rest. Back before the fall, work was enjoyable. It was something that Adam and Eve wouldn't have minded doing. Have you ever done some sort of work where you are doing the work and you're saying, I can't believe that I get paid to do this. This is so fun. Yeah, a few of you have. And specifically, I'm thinking about my friend Jackson. And he knows it's coming. I can tell from the look on his face. Because I've been talking with Jackson some here lately. He's been talking about what he does as part of his job. He jumps out of airplanes as part of his work. And he goes hiking in Alaska as part of his work. And I was watching this video that he had on his computer about some of the work that he was doing. He's riding around in four-wheelers, and it looked like stuff that I did when I was a kid, but he's calling it a training exercise. And I'm thinking, man, there's some great stuff in that job. Now, I'm sure that not all of it is like that. But there are some things that look like it's pretty fun. Well, that's what work would have been like for Adam and Eve. It would have been something that they enjoyed all the time. But then what happened with the fall? Things changed with the fall. Instead of work being something enjoyable, it became a terrible burden. Genesis chapter 3, verse 17. Because you have listened to the voice of your wife and have eaten of the tree of which I commanded you, you shall not eat of it. Cursed is the ground because of you. In pain you shall eat of it all the days of your life. Thorns and thistles it shall bring forth for you, and you shall eat the plants of the field. By the sweat of your face you shall eat bread till you return to the ground, and out of it you are taken. Your dust, for you are dust, and to dust you shall return. So God is cursing Adam and Eve. He's cursing the very ground that they stand on. He's cursing the entire universe in such a way as to make it difficult for us to earn a living. It's not just the people who are in agriculture. It's not just the farmers who have trouble earning a living, but it's all of us. All of us have times where we wonder if we're going to be able to make ends meet. We wonder what the future is going to hold regarding us. That all comes because of this curse here in Genesis chapter 3. That is